How to make good friends in school. This is very important since friends might be the top reason you enjoy coming to school. Amidst all the tough schoolwork and teachers, at least you can hang out with your friends 5 times per week. And the Bible says it's important that we have friends. The issue comes when you mix with the wrong influence, who will make you less mature in your character. I don't even need you to make friends with only Christians. But there comes a time where you gotta ask yourself if your friend is good for your well-being, including Christians. The wrong environment would make it harder for you to walk with Christ, while the right one would make it so much easier by leaps and bounds. So how do we make good friends in school? The first part will focus on certain characteristics of being a good friend, and then the second part will be on tips during your social interaction. So straight from God's word, here are some traits of a good friend who is likely to not leave you during hardships. I have this acronym called IGC, because while IGC stands for in good company, it also stands for 3 traits for a good friend. The I in IGC stands for influences you to be better. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. It would be good if you have a friend that encourages you to be a better person. Now, this topic can be quite complex because it might seem like you should just be yourself and others should accept you for who you are, including your flaws. Here's where I would like to share this quote. There's a certain niceness to a friendship where I can be, as they say, myself. But what I really need are relationships in which I will be encouraged to become better than myself. Myself needs to grow a little each day. I don't want to be the myself I was yesterday. I want to be the myself that is developing each day to become more of a Christ-like person. Now, I understand that the world loves saying be yourself when meeting new people, and that's true to a certain extent when finding chemistry with someone. But perhaps the better phrase instead of be yourself would be to improve yourself. While we will never be perfect, it is good to strive to become better than yourself a year ago. Because one of the most pathetic things that could happen is for you to not change 10 years later. I can't even imagine myself being the same person as I was when I was 12 years old. Nor do I wish for myself to still stay the same way when I'm 32 years old. Thankfully, a great way to improve is to have supportive friends. How do you know that someone influences you to be better? It could be that you're unafraid to share good news with them because if they want the best for you, they would celebrate with you. It could be them encouraging you to work on whatever goals you have, for example, fitness goals or hobbies. It could be that you observe something good in them and strive to be like them. For example, if your friend has been courteous to the servers or cleaners, it might influence you to be a little kinder. Or that if you see them being friendly when meeting new people, it might inspire you to get out of that comfort zone and chat with others. Another thing to influence you to be better is that they speak the truth in love. If they see you doing something toxic or not right, they will correct you and urge you to not be so mean. Now, that is a tricky thing. Because of our pride, we might not like it when someone tells us what not to do. But on the other hand, if no one tells us what we are doing wrong, then we might never improve in our character. And that might cause other people to not like us in the future. An easy analogy might be when you walk around with bad breath. Alright, so hear me out. Let's say your friend notices that you have bad breath and tells you to brush your teeth or eat a mint. While it might seem hurtful to you at that moment, it is still better than walking around with bad breath and people staying away from you because of it. But in real life, instead of bad breath, it could be that a friend points out that we are mean towards certain people, too selfish to consider others' needs, or that we talk too loud in public. By the way, that's me because my voice is naturally loud. Okay, so let's say we have someone that guides us when we are wrong because they genuinely want us to be better. What if they are really mean to you though? I'm sure you have experienced being in the wrong, but the way someone rebukes or scolds you for it makes you angry. This brings me to my next point. Being gentle-mannered means that if my friend points out a flaw in me, I want him to be firm yet gentle with me. I hope he doesn't shout or spew hateful things towards me, but instead directly tells me the behavior, calmly explains why it is wrong, and then resolve the issue peacefully. I mean, I would be a hypocrite if I'm telling you to stop being so unloving while I myself am saying poisonous things, right? I think of these verses when it comes to having those tough conversations. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. Another thing is that your friend forgives you instead of holding a grudge that gets bottled up. You should not forget what you have done wrong, but at the same time, he should forgive you and move on. A verse that comes to mind is Colossians 3 verse 13. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. So we have I for influences you to be better, G for gentle-mannered, C stands for connects with your emotions. Rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. When you read this verse, I hope you don't think that when you cry, then your friend also has to cry with you. I'm not saying that they are a bad friend if they don't cry when you cry. But when you cry, I hope they are at least trying to go to your level to understand why you're crying. That's what it means to connect with your emotions. On the other hand, they will rejoice when you are rejoicing. For example, rejoicing at a certain piece of good news. Basically, a good friend will empathize with you on an emotional level. During conversations, they will be fully engaged with you instead of looking elsewhere like their phones. They will ask you questions and conversations would be balanced. They will allow you to speak instead of taking over the entire conversation. Some people only focus on what they're going to say when it's their turn, but they should focus on actively listening to what the other person is saying. There's a stark difference between hearing and listening to someone. Hence, if you feel listened to, then that person is great at connecting with your emotions. So there you have it. IGC, which stands for In Good Company, but also stands for influences you to be better, gentle-mannered, and connects with your emotions. If your friend has these 3 traits, then you will be in good company. But I want to ask you this question. Do you yourself carry all these good traits? I'm sure that for the past few minutes you were thinking, yes, my classmate does not have this trait. My CCA friend does not even have one of these traits. But did you check yourself? Remember that Matthew 7 verse 3 says, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" Now, the next question is great to think about. Are you too focused on finding good friends instead of being a good friend yourself? Perhaps we place too much emphasis on whether someone is a good influence or not, that we don't think about whether we ourselves are good influencers. So, while we can point fingers at others for not having good qualities, let's also think about what areas we can improve on. After all, the question was how to make good friends, right? So, these pointers go both ways. While you're deciding whether someone is a good friend, you yourself need to check whether you are being a good friend to others. And honestly, I'm still on the path of being a good friend, which shows how much work this would take. So, what are some tips that can help you on the journey of being a good friend? Let's go back to the first letter in the acronym, which is I for influences you to be better. How can we do that? We don't have to speak profoundly in our conversations like Jesus on the Mount in Matthew 5. In fact, it might be better if you don't just talk the talk, but you walk the walk. Sometimes I get influenced when my friends behave a certain way, and then I try to also be like them. At the start, it might seem superficial, like I'm doing it because they already did it, so I might seem like a jerk if I don't do that, or I'm trying to win a bit of their approval. But after a while, the unfamiliar becomes familiar, and it becomes routine for me to be nice to the cleaners, or superiors, or social outcasts. So my tip here is to walk the talk. The next letter is G for gentle-mannered. We can work on doing that by being really careful with our speech. Once you get heated up, it's best to not engage anymore because you are so prone to saying the wrong thing that will hurt someone, and you will regret it. So do a bit of chaos control. If you know that you struggle with anger, just say that you got to step out of the situation. It's better to resolve whatever conflict when both parties are calm. Another thing you got to check on is your pride. Because we want to win or feel victorious from the fight, we would act childish. Do you know who throws tantrums at others? Do you know who starts physical violence? Do you know who would want to have the last word said to make it even? The answer to all these questions are children. Come on, I don't want to treat you like a child. So you got to take responsibility for your feelings like an adult and have self-control over your emotions. You can't control your feelings, but you can at least work on how you respond to those feelings. Go channel that negative energy into something productive like working out. Now, here's a tip for guys. I know how hard it can be to rebuke your friend gently instead of laughing along with whatever bad thing he's doing or saying. My suggestion would be to say something like, "Hey, don't so toxic leh." It's still a chill vibe. You're not ruining the vibe, but at least that person knows that what he said or did is kinda toxic. And no one wants to be known for being toxic, so that might start up something in him. If he asks why don't be so toxic, then you can go into the reason why that certain behavior might not be considered very loving. The last letter in the acronym is C for connects with your emotions. So how can you do that? You just got to read the room, which takes a lot of practice to do. But it's in the simple cues. If that person is complaining, you probably don't want to talk about something great that happened to you recently. You can keep that for later or another time. If someone is rejoicing at a big piece of news, you probably don't want to complain about something or one up by boasting about something else unless he asks you. If he seems quiet or doesn't seem to talk much, it might be because something is weighing down on him. So it might not be best for you to go all party mode. The nice thing is, after some time with a friend, you can better understand his or her individual signs. I personally will stay quiet when I'm bothered by something, since I'm usually joking along with my friends. But some people might try to talk a lot to hide that they are upset about something. So you just got to train that muscle to be able to respond to someone's emotions well. That's all I have for this video. I hope it serves as a good reminder on how to find and become a good friend. I hope this also helps me out since I'm not the perfect friend. I especially struggle with being gentle-mannered. Comment on what you wish to see next, and I'll see you soon as I am on the go for Jesus.